The most famously known airlines in the world, Emirates Airline, is currently hiring for a couple thousand new cabin crew members to be added to their employee group. I'm Robert Anthony, and if you aren't following me already, I am here to give you tips on travel, wellness, spirituality, and the aviation world. I'm a former international cabin crew for Emirates Airline, used to work there for many years, and now I live in the US working as a domestic-based flight attendant. On my channel, I compare the pros and cons of working as a cabin crew versus a flight attendant, and then I share with you all my passions and other interests that include everything from like astrology to spirituality to the acting that I do on the side and everything else that's going on in my life to help inspire you to live a life that is uniquely your own. Now, if you follow me, you already know that I've covered so many different topics about Emirates, and I'm really passionate as well as about explaining what it's currently like in the current aviation industry in the US. Emirates is always hiring. I don't think there's ever a time where they're not hiring, except when I worked there and they actually enacted a very long couple-year hiring freeze. But for the most part, there is such a high amount of turnover there that they're always probably doing some sort of hiring. But I think right now what's happening is that they're changing fleets or adding more planes to their fleets. So similarly to when I was hired, they are doing like a worldwide hiring tour where they're most likely going to be interviewing in so many of the places that they fly to find their next crews. The cool thing about Emirates is they do want to be the most cosmopolitan airline, so they do hire in so many different various countries. They want like 10 to 12 nationalities represented on each flight, so it's a really great place to work. And I'm not going to get into all the pros and cons of working there on this video. I have so much content already on this YouTube channel and also my podcast, which is called From Glam to Sham, if you're curious about what the difference is between being a cabin crew and a flight attendant. But today, I just wanted to clear up some misconceptions if you're interested in applying for Emirates about what it's really like to work there. Please don't forget to subscribe. As you know, that helps this push the content out and get this seen by more people. And if you're interested in hearing more or have questions about hiring process or anything else about living in Dubai, working for Emirates, leave them in the comments so I can address them directly or I can get to them in a video. Okay, now that the housekeeping is aside, so the first misconception that I want to clear up is no, Emirates Airline does not keep your passport. I don't know where this rumor started, but it is absolutely false. You are not trapped. They don't hold you hostage. You have your passport. If you wanted to just leave anytime, you could, except when you're on probation. So first, I will address, I think this rumor is a hybrid rumor about something that does happen, but it doesn't happen to people that are going to work for Emirates Airline. I have heard that this does happen for some of the migrant workers there, people that they're bringing in from like India to build construction, to work in construction. So it's really quite sad. I don't know the specifics, so I don't want to address it and create a false narrative. But I have heard that there are some instances where like workers being brought in from other countries, that their passport is held for like the length of their contract by their employer, so they can't really leave, and it's quite a sad situation to hear about, but that is not what happens to you if you're going to work for Emirates Airline. Now, the company does hold your passport for a brief period of time because when you move to Dubai, you're going to go through like 8 weeks of initial training, and you're going to have an induction week the week before your training actually starts, where you're doing various days listening to management, listening to stories, like, you know, getting sold all the Kool-Aid from the company about coming to work there and what it's like to start living in Dubai and starting your career there. During that time period, there is a moment where they collect your passports because they do need to like put the visa in it and get everything situated on the back end, but it's only a couple days. And I guess it is true that you cannot leave during your probation, if I'm remembering correctly. I'm sure if there was, of course, like an emergency or you had to go back home or you decided you didn't want to work anymore, of course, the contract that you sign is non-binding, so you're not stuck there. but you can't travel on your benefits until you pass probation. So most airlines do have a probationary period. That means you're not quite fully like a technical flight attendant or cabin crew with them, and they have a little more leniency and easier ways to let you go during probation than once you pass probation, and they're kind of stuck with you unless you consistently do things that violate rules and then accrue like discipline points and whatnot, like any other company. But yes, during your probation, you won't be able to travel. So your probation is going to be 6 months. So you are not able to use any of your flight benefits, and you are basically stuck in Dubai working. That's pretty much it. To me, it wasn't a big deal because I joined Emirates because I wanted to live in Dubai. So I had so much fun with my batchmates and new friends that I was making on flights, just hanging out and enjoying Dubai. And then eventually and you're traveling enough with your operating schedule that it didn't feel very constrictive. And then the 6 months passes very quickly, and then you're free to list yourself on the travel benefits and travel on your off days, plan vacations, go home, things like that. But yeah, for the first 6 months, you will kind of be stuck. You can't really go home, and your passport is held only for a day or two as they get your visa and everything organized. I also want to add to that topic, since we're talking about the schedules just really quickly. They do kind of own you. So just like you're locked up in your probationary period from traveling, you're also locked up from bidding, from swapping flights. So your schedule that you get is basically your schedule. There's not changing it. And even once you pass probation, that tends to remain the same. Yes, you can bid. Yes, you can swap, but it's quite difficult. They have a lot of legalities when it comes to swapping, and they roster you pretty full on. It's not like being a flight attendant if you are someone that is currently in aviation. Most people join aviation in Western cultures because it's very flexible, right? So there's a lot of people, for instance, in the US that have second jobs. They only want to work weekends, or maybe because they're parents, so they want to be home during the week, they work weekends, or the opposite, they work only during the week and then they want to be home on weekends. Some people like stack all of their flying together that are like US flight attendants, and they do like 2 weeks worth of flying, and then they live somewhere else, maybe like overseas, so they go back home for 2 weeks. None of that is possible. Emirates owns you. You do go to live there. You can't live anywhere else other than Dubai. Like, it's a one hub operation. You have to live in Dubai. I don't even know why you would want to apply for Emirates if you had no interest of living in Dubai, but there's no way to make the job like flexible or commutable. And I do talk about this topic in other content that I've shared, but being an Emirates cabin crew is your life. Like, it's a whole lifestyle versus being a flight attendant. It's kind of just like your job, and then you have your life or other things going on. Not at Emirates. Like, you're going to Emirates because you want to live in Dubai, you want to be a cabin crew, and that is your reality. That is literally the bubble of reality that you are living in. So that's how you have to manage your expectation. There's just no other way around it. It's a lifestyle. So the other misconception or rumor that I'm asked quite often about is, do we live in compounds? And this also might be another like hybrid rumor that got created, but you don't live in a compound. So I can kind of see why this rumor started, so I'm just going to clarify it. Emirates Group owns or leases multiple buildings all throughout Dubai. So you're going to be housed with other cabin crew. That is true if you take their accommodation package, which is free, but you live with other cabin crew. You get your own room, you get your own bathroom, and you'll either have one other flatmate, so 2 of you total, or 2 other flatmates, so 3 of you total. Very rare instances I've heard of 3 other flatmates, so 4 people total, but that's super, super rare, and that might not even exist by now. Usually 1 or 2 other people, big apartments, and the whole building will be cabin crew. There might be 1 or 2 buildings that are mixed with commercial tenants, but for the most part, it is all cabin crew. So I guess that's where kind of the cabin crew compound idea comes in. But it's not like just this compound, except for a couple buildings which are quite far out in the middle of the desert, and there's like 3 large buildings that are all cabin crew, and those are held with mixed emotion. Some people love it because it is kind of like a adult college atmosphere vibe. Like, everyone there is cabin crew. I guess it would kind of be like living on like a Google campus, right? You have your little grocery store nearby, but everyone around you is crew. But the other side of that is it's very difficult to get into Dubai. You're very far out. You would need a car, or you'd always be spending money on taxis. But some people love it because like it's just always like house parties and crew parties and cool things going on. So it depends what your vibe is. Besides those sort of few compound buildings with crew, you're going to be anywhere from right by the airport to the Dubai Marina, where a lot of expats live, a lot of British, a lot of Australians, a lot of Americans that aren't cabin crew but are in Dubai working in other careers. They live out there. You might be near like the old Dubai area, like the Gold Souk, or in downtown Dubai, which is where I lived. I loved living in downtown Dubai, right on the main strip, Sheikh Zayed Road. So it's kind of hit or miss, and you do have the option to try and move whenever you are able to. But yeah, it's not a compound. It is a building full of crew though, so it does have kind of like that college atmosphere feel. But you're not sharing rooms or anything like that, so don't stress about that. Okay, so the third thing I'm asked about the most often is there an age limit or do they kick people out? And this is yet another kind of hybrid truth, so let me clarify. I don't know if there is a formal age limit written somewhere. However, when I did work there, they were beginning to give pursers that were 49 a 1-year contract only, and by 50, they were being let go. Now, let me just say a couple things. The type of flying that you do at Emirates and that pressure in terms of the workload, the flying schedule, everything is really intense. It's unlike anywhere else. Because this airline flies all over the world, so you have the most varied schedule in terms of your sleep. They fly the largest commercial aircrafts in aviation, so it's the most demanding job role. The service is very intense. And most importantly, there is no union there. So you don't have, an unaffiliated party that has nothing to do with the company that's making money looking out for the role of the cabin crew. The only people that are looking out for the role of the cabin crew is the company. So the customers, the product, the service all kind of comes before the cabin crew. So that comes down to even something like rest strategies on long flights. Like European carriers with a strict union and strict rules might have half of their crew sleep for half of the flight, a long flight, and then they swap. Versus Emirates, where maybe you're gonna get like maximum 3 hours of a nap, including changing time, on a 16-hour flight. So it's a very tiring job. It's exhausting on your mental health, your physical health, your emotional health. It's just exhausting. It's not, to me, a sustainable career. And I don't really know why someone over the age of 50 would want to be flying in that sort of capacity. So this is different than being a flight attendant based in the US or Europe, where, people join for seniority, right? They join because eventually, as you progress in your seniority at an airline, the pay gets better, your roster gets better, your schedule gets better. And for instance, at my airline, like people that have been working 20 to 30 to 40 years that are at the top of the seniority drop all of their flights and they do maybe like a couple Hawaiis a month. So you get a very nice schedule as your career progresses. But Emirates, they control you. Like I said, it's a lifestyle. So there's never a point where you're like, all right, I'm gonna start dropping flights. Like no matter what age, no matter what cabin you're working in, no matter what position, if you're just an economy crew or if you're a purser, you will be flying a full schedule always and forever as long as you're at that company. So I don't really know why past the age of 50 you would even want to be doing that. I think it would be really tiring and I think it would be really unhealthy. Emirates is known to hire very young. I was even on the older side of being hired when I joined as an economy crew member. I was in my late 20s. Now they're doing super, super young. I've heard like fresh out of college, like no job experience. So they want youthful, and that's because they have a high turnover, and they only need a few a smaller percentage, let's say, that to continue to move up the ranks, because of course it is a hierarchy. So yes, they do need people to stay to move from economy class to business to first class to then becoming a supervisor and then a purser. But you know, those positions get smaller and smaller as you move up the ranks. So they don't need everyone to do that. And they would much rather have someone that starts in their early 20s in economy class, moves to business and first class probably, you know, by their late 20s, early 30s, and then in their 30s is a supervisor or purser. And then by 50, they're like, all right, get out. Now, also with that is there is no promise of a career at Emirates. You don't get hired for a career. You get hired for a 3-year contract. And the reason for that is twofold. One, because of the UAE government, you need to have your blood and visa, well, the first reason for that is because for the government, you need to have your visa renewed every 3 years. Now, what this means is they test your blood because there's no HIV allowed in Dubai. So if you are HIV positive, you can't go to work there or be sponsored by an employee. So every 3 years, they do your drug test and they do your blood test, and then your visa is renewed. That's from the government side. From the company side, it gives Emirates the opportunity to get rid of bad eggs. So if you're someone that has a lot of sickness, a lot of discipline, customer complaints, you know, they can probably get rid of you within your 3-year contract. But for the most part, they'll take the opportunity when your contract is over to just be like, thanks for your service, but we're not going to renew. Now, I don't personally know anyone that ever has been let go after their first 3-year contract. Most people just continue to get rolled over onto a new contract, and that's how you make a career there. There are instances where, for instance, maybe if you don't have customer complaints or anything, but you just have a few attendance issues or a lot of sickness one year, they might say to you, okay, your 3 years is up. We're going to give you a 1-year contract now. During this 1 year, if you can prove to us that you're reliable, or you know, your sickness levels or your sickness call outs go down, then we'll extend it back to a 3-year contract. So that's kind of how that works. But yes, there is technically an age limit, and you will be out by age 50. So you would have to kind of plan accordingly to either be saving and getting your next job lined up if you're getting to that older age bracket and still living and working in Dubai, if you plan on going back home. A lot of people love Dubai, so even if they leave Emirates, they end up finding another job to do there because they've built their life there after that long in Dubai working for Emirates. Okay, so did I cover all the points? What did we talk about? They don't keep your passport, you don't live in a compound, there is an age limit. I think that's pretty much it. Those are the 3 questions I'm most commonly asked about what it's like to work at Emirates Airline. Of course, there's so many more misconceptions. There's so many more juicy things to know that I'm not gonna cover in this video. But if there is another rumor that you've heard about Emirates, leave it in the comments. I'm happy to address it. And don't forget to follow me for more info about anything cabin crew, flight attendant, travel, wellness, spirituality, and more. Be well.